now it's time for a word from Digital Music Trends, sponsor of this coverage of Midem 2011. The company is Music2text, and it's a great solution that allows you to bring music to mobile devices. So Music2text can provide you with a mobile music store and the ability for you as an artist or a label to sell songs via SMS, keeping 100% of net sales. So with the direct-to-fan service, you can also eliminate the middleman from the revenue chain, as the platform captures the mobile numbers for every single transaction, giving great opportunities for post-marketing and for reaching out to fans. Also on the service, it's important to know that there are no hidden fees or nasty surprises and no subscription charges. So if you're planning your next mobile marketing campaign, you really should give them a shout and see what they can do for you. I really thank them for their support of Digital Music Trends at Midem 2011. They are here at the conference, and you should check them out if you're here. Otherwise, visit www.music2text.com, 2 as a number, for more information. So it's day 2 of MidemNet and day 1 of Midem, and I'm really happy to welcome to the show Kirit Yoshi, who's the chairman of DDEX. And so, hi Kirit, and it's great to have you on the show.
Hi Andrea, good to be here.
So basically, let's start with an introduction to DDEX, because it's such a back-end, organization that a lot of people may not have heard about it or may not know what you do. So what does DDEX do, and what kind of organization is it?
Sure. DDEX or DDEX, as we often refer to it, is really an organization that came about from major players in the digital music supply chain, with the intent of removing some of the friction that we'd observed in the supply chain. When I talk about friction, the type of issues that we tried to address were avoiding proprietary standards for sending content out into the marketplace, and avoiding proprietary formats for getting the reporting back for sales or usage of these assets. By having proprietary standards, it automatically meant having to reinvent the wheel every single time a new deal was done. So part of that friction gets removed by having a common messaging format. And the other piece is really just to deal with the new business models that are evolving out in the marketplace, and the volume of products that are exploding out there. But at the same time, the transactional value continues to go down. And therefore, you need a highly efficient automated infrastructure to deal with all of that in order to reduce cost.
And in terms of the way you track the metadata, is it a challenge on a global basis, because there isn't really a completely standardized procedure for that sort of thing?
Yeah, the approach to all the standards it's a global approach. Just as a specific example, which has been a very active conversation at this Midem, is around the ability to handle non-Roman characters in the metadata sets. So when we look at Mandarin, Cantonese, Kanji, etc., the DDEX standard allow for all languages to be handled through its messaging infrastructure, and that automatically suddenly provides a huge platform for global repertoire to transfer across geographies, which previously was somewhat restricted, mainly due to proprietary standards, which often didn't have these capabilities built into them.
And the standard that you provide has been adopted by a number of companies. It's a worldwide service, as you mentioned. So what are the companies you work with, and what are the partners that you're adding to this roster? The standards are now beginning to get implemented by a lot of the leading charter members of the organizations. You see a lot of the big players amongst the 4 majors that are beginning to adopt the standards, and as they start deploying them, obviously every single touch point that they have in the digital supply chain gets affected, because they would have to adopt the standard as well. The implementation approach of these standards, DDEX has had the opportunity to make sure that we are flexible enough to support the small organizations as well as the bigger ones. Have the standards so that they
only a subset of that, where relevant, needs to be implemented by any player as opposed to implementing the whole standard. And you already see live implementations of this on the content delivery side by Sony Music, by Warner Music, Harry Fox, Rio, Rhapsody. Apple is delivering sales reporting to the societies using these standards, and that momentum will only increase over the next 12, 18 months or so. I think over the next 2 years or so, we will have achieved critical mass in terms of operational usage of these standards in the digital value chain.
And in terms of like getting a bit more onto the technical side, is the implementation of standard to do with the formatting of the XMLs that are sent out to the business partners, or what is the standard really implemented by?
The standard is really a definition of the XML itself, which provides the necessary containers for business partners to populate as appropriate for their business model. What DDEX avoids doing is being the transaction engine itself. We just define the XML standards and let the members implement those in their environments.
And in terms of the frictions that you might have encountered in establishing this standard, with so many partners that are part of this organization, do you feel like you've achieved a good balance between what the different parties were concerned about?
I think we have, and one of the things that we continue to emphasize is the DDEX standards are open standards. Membership, which starts at a relatively low level, allows everyone to participate in reshaping and forging these standards, so that they fulfill all the needs of all the partners, be it small or large.
It's particularly important. You mentioned the insertion of non-standard characters into the metadata as well, and that's particularly important because companies are starting to realize that. I heard a lot of statistics about how 20% of the population is providing 80% of the revenue for the music industry, and so it's really important to actually be able to integrate those territories that at the moment are on their own in terms of both the metadata, the delivery, and the sellability of music.
No, absolutely, and I think if you look at the historical movement of repertoire between different geographies, a lot of it was restricted by the restrictions of the physical world, and in the digital world, suddenly you're able to take repertoire from Pan China and market it in the US for that particular demographic. You're able to take repertoire from India and also channel it into other marketplaces. And all of that becomes a lot easier if the repertoire metadata is respected in its original language and transferred in a standardized manner across all the global players. And
in terms of, you also work at Sony Music. So what is the relationship between Sony and DDEX? And do you feel like you've seen a real benefit from the adoption of this new metadata standard within the company as well?
Yes, Sony Music is a founding charter member of the DDEX organization. We believe in the open standards because we do know that it will reduce operating costs for us in getting our content out to the marketplace and dealing with the sales transactions that come back. And to the extent that we've implemented the messages in an operational environment, we've seen these benefits actually materialize in reality. So it's not just a theoretical proposition from DDEX. We've been able to realize the benefits operationally.
In terms of the challenges that you have for the future, do you think you're halfway there in terms of the implementation of this standard, or do you think there's a lot of work to be done and many more partners to get on board?
Let me try and answer that in two separate categories. The first one being the standards themselves. I think the standards will continue to evolve as this space, the digital domain, continues to evolve. I think we just need to always do that in a controlled way, ensure compatibility to do what is out there in the marketplace, and at the same time make sure that we embrace all the opportunities that might be presented in the digital space. In terms of adoption itself, I think we're just at the beginning of that cycle. We'll see critical mass probably in the next couple of years, 1 to 2 years or so, around some of the messages. I think we do have opportunity to expand out the scope of the type of messages that we deal with, especially as we see new mixed media, multimedia bundles being created. Promotional photographs was an asset that was always used for promo purposes, but there's an opportunity to have that formally delivered within the supply chain. So the scope of the standards will continue to expand as well.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks very much for your time, and it was great having you on the show.